Okay, good morning, Canterbury. I'm here with a very special guest, my former math teacher, my current neighbor, and his recent creation, Mr. R2D2. Mr. DeMarcus, say hello to Canterbury Middle School.
Hello, Mr. Westfall, and hello, middle school students.
So Mr. DeMarcus has built this, you guys, and Mr. Marcus, I was just hoping that you could kind of take us through what we're looking at and how you did it.
Yeah, sure. I think most people know that this is R2D2 from the Star Wars movies. He is one of the only characters, if not the only character, to have appeared in every Star Wars movie ever made. He is what's known as an astromech droid, or just a droid for short. There are other versions of R2D2 that exist in the movies, different colors, different style of domes and that sort of thing. But this is the one from the movie. Looks as identical to the movie droid as I could possibly get. And I started building him in January last year. So January 2020, I had the idea to join, there's an R2D2 Builders Club. So I joined this club and tried to learn as much as I could about how you go about building an R2D2. And about 9 months later, I completed him. And I don't know, I think he's pretty awesome. I was pretty excited about it. And I brought him to a few events, and kids and adults alike seemed to really like him.
Yeah, Fred got to meet him in the driveway a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago. It took 9 months to make. So can you talk about that process, Mr. DeMarcus? Was it challenging mentally, emotionally? What was going on?
Yeah, sort of all of the above.
Okay.
It took a lot of reading and a lot of research in the beginning just to figure out how to go about doing this, because there's not just one way to do it, and there's not a kit that you can buy and just assemble the kit and you're done. There are a lot of different things that I had to learn. There are some builders out there. So this R2D2, he's made out of all metal, so he's all aluminum. Although his feet are made out of steel, just because those have to be extra sturdy to be able to support the weight. But other folks who build droids, they don't make theirs out of metal at all. Some people make theirs out of wood. Some people make them out of styrene, which is a type of plastic. And some people make theirs out of 3D printed parts. So they have a 3D printer, or maybe a couple 3D printers, and they print each and every component and put it all together that sort of way. But yeah, in addition to the body and the dome and everything that you see, there's a lot of electronics going on inside, which I had to learn all about, because I really didn't know much about electronics. There's computer programming that's involved. And again, that was something that I've got a little bit of a background in computer programming, but this particular type of programming was new to me, and so I had to figure all of that out. It was overall very fun. There were days of frustration. There were days where, I thought, oh my gosh, am I ever going to be able to complete this? Things weren't working right, and I was just having trouble getting things to, go together. But, in the end, 9 months later, it was totally worth it. I learned so much, which I think was the ultimate goal. Well, one was to have fun building it, but two, I also just learned a whole lot about working with metal, programming, working with electronics. If you were to see the inside of this droid, you would see just how complex it is as far as the number of wires involved and the number of circuit boards and chips and all of these other devices that are inside. But it was a great experience. And it was so much fun building it that I'm actually working on a second one right now. Hope to be done with that one this year. He'll look a little bit different than R2D2. He's going to have a different style of dome, and he's going to be a different color scheme than the white and the blue. But at least R2 will have at least a friend to hang out with.
Is the new build, is that a character from the Star Wars universe as well, or is it one kind of
It
your own
is.
design?
Yeah, it is a character. He first appeared in the original Star Wars movie back in 1977. He didn't really have a name in that movie. Luke Skywalker just referred to him as Red. His official name is R5D4, and he's, for those of the kids that have seen that original movie and are familiar with it, he's the droid that Luke purchased, but then that droid had a malfunction, a bad motivator it was called, and so Luke decided not to get Red droid and instead ended up buying R2D2. So that's the second droid I'm working on, is that red one called R5D4.
So I'm definitely out of my element here, Mr. Marcus, but I think there's some fan lore about that droid that maybe one of my advisees has told me about. Maybe that droid was like a plant or something, like maybe even a Jedi. Am I off base, or have you heard of this?
I've not heard of that, Mr. Westfall.
Okay.
I suppose that could be.
I keep within secondhand 7th grade hearsay in chat rooms, I'm sure. So, well, could you show us some then of the features like that R2 has here? He's a chatty guy. He's pretty loud here.
Yeah, he's loud.
And then what else are you proud of that he can do, and what are some of his special features?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, he's very chatty. He's very loud. In fact, I missed part of your question, but I think I got enough of it. Yeah. So some of the things that he can do, he has body panels that open up. He has, all sorts of things that open up on his body, which is pretty neat. His arms, or both of his arms, are supposed to work. One of them might be a little stuck here. There we go. Obviously, his dome moves and he moves. He's quite speedy.
Mr. Marcus, is this to scale? Is this the actual size of R2 from the
this is built 100% to scale. So he's about waist high, a little over 3 feet, I believe. I've not actually measured him. Okay. But yeah, he's 100% to scale. So this is what they would have used in the movie. People that meet him for the first time, they're amazed at how big he is, because they've seen the movie and they've seen R2D2 in the movie, but they think for some reason he's maybe a little bit smaller than he actually is until they see him in person, and they're like, wow, he is really big.
I remember he's about the height of Fred height maybe a couple months ago. So I was amazed at too.
Yep.
So I understand then that you've got some breakout features lined up to kind of show a little bit more of the process.
I can take you into my workshop, and I'll show you a little bit about what goes into him that makes him work.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna pause it here, and we'll catch up there when you're at your workbench. Okay, so we're back here. This is your kind of workbench, and what do you have there?
All right. Well, first of all, I thought I'd show everyone what the remote control looks like that you use to control R2. So these are 2 little handheld remotes. They're very small, very hard for people to see that you're even controlling R2. They've got a couple little joysticks here, buttons at the top, buttons in the middle right here, and some dials that do different things on the side. These were custom made, not by me, but by another gentleman who builds R2D2s. He designed a whole control system that is this particular one right here. And what happens is when you operate these joysticks and these buttons, it sends a signal to this device. So this is called a stealth controller, made by the same gentleman who made the remotes. He owns a company called Sure Robotics. And it basically works through a radio signal. So when you move the joystick, it sends a radio signal to this device, and then this device tells the droid what to do. This is like the brain of R2. What happens is that this device right here is then connected to multiple other devices, such as these here. There are several of these inside of R2. They all are very specialized and do different things. So like, for example, this one right here, this is what controls R2-D2's dome, allows him to spin his dome. This one right here, this is what controls some of those panels that open up on R2's body and on R2's dome. They're all they're designed for a very particular purpose. And then, so you've got those devices that are all connected to the brain. Mm-hmm. And then from all these different devices, you have things like this. So this right here, this is called a servo. And you can find servos in lots of radio controlled, remote controlled gadgets and toys. Like, for example, like remote control cars, remote control helicopters will all have things like this. And they're basically little tiny motors that you can program to turn just basically two directions, clockwise, counterclockwise. And it's these servos, I mean, look how small that is. It's very, very teeny. There's also some larger ones, like this guy, for example. This is a bigger one, and this would be used to do something that is a little more work intensive, like a heavier piece that needs to be moved.
Okay.
And then you incorporate those servos into things like this, and you get entire panels that start to move.
Yeah.
So you see that?
Yeah.
So that's an example. That's a hinge that is inside of R2's dome. And this right here is a hinge that would be in R2's body.
Oh, like those flaps that were opening up or something like that.
Right, yeah, those flaps, those panels on his body. But they're very precise in their movement. So you can like open it just a little bit. You can open it wide open. You can pretty much do whatever you want with it. And then I also have a couple of these in R2. I did not demonstrate it outside, but R2-D2 has a feature, and I think I may have shown Fred this. It's a fire extinguisher, basically, where a panel opens up on his dome and it shoots out what looks like a fire extinguisher effect. And I accomplished that by using something like this. This is called a linear actuator.
Okay.
Basically just has linear motion along one line. And it basically when I do the fire extinguisher, it just basically comes out this far and it pushes a little trigger that activates the fire extinguisher, and then it goes back.
So it strikes me that, I mean, you've got all these detailed pieces, but you've got to understand all the detail of the components, but then also have your eye on like the big idea of what you want to be accomplishing and how it's going to work in the system. Was that hard to keep track of as you were making the build?
Yeah, it was hard to keep track of. It was hard to figure things out, like how to, like maybe another day, Mr. Westfall, we can like take the dome off of R2 and you can see sort of the inside to see like where everything goes. And it was difficult to figure out, where do I put everything? Yeah. And how do I securely attach it? And, how do I get this to push the button in the right place when it has to operate the fire extinguisher? Right. So yeah, that was very difficult to do. Another question that I get asked a lot is, you can see like R2's dome spins around, okay? And there are wires that go from the body up to the dome. Yeah. And people ask me, when the dome is spinning, how do the wires not get all tangled up? Okay, and that is because of this device right here. You can see it's very long. It's a set of 18 wires from top to bottom. This starts in the bottom here, and then the dome is up here at the top. And if you look at it, you can spin all these wires around without any of the wires getting tangled up. This is called an electrical slip ring. Yeah. And I'll tell you, when I first started building this R2-D2, I had no idea that a device like this even existed. I wouldn't have even known what it was called. But it's just one of the things that I learned, along with so many other things, about electronics, about working with metal, mechanical engineering, and that sort of thing. It was just a great learning experience to be able to figure out all this all of these different components that are needed.
Yeah, and like the fact that it seems like a thought you have later on down the road, but it's such a critical component, and it just makes for so many other things possible within that droid unit. I mean, that's neat. I'm sure that whole unit is littered with cool little contraptions like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Video number 2, we'll open
Yes.
him up and I'll give you a tour of the inside.
Yes, well, that'll be the director's cut. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. That
All right.
sounds good.
Hey, since this will be showing on May 4th, could you give us a Star Wars memory, or maybe the first time? Do you remember the first time you ever watched a Star Wars movie, Mr. DeMarcus?
I do. So, but just vaguely. So the very first Star Wars movie came out in 1977. So that is, we're going on what, 45 years or so. It's been around for a long, long time. It's not a new thing. I first saw the original movie in 1977. My parents took me to see it. I was 6 years old. And I don't remember a whole lot about the movie, other than I was very clear watching the movie that it was obviously a battle between good and evil. You had bad guys, you had good guys. And I think that's part of the reason what makes Star Wars so popular still today. I mean, you've got all these great characters and, great ships and technology and cool worlds that they visit. But ultimately, it's a story about good versus evil, which is so prevalent, I think, in a lot of good stories that have lasted this long and have stood the test of time. But my memory is this: sitting in the movie theater with my parents, and wasn't really sure at 6 years old exactly what was going on, but I knew it was good versus evil. And I remember asking my dad several times during the movie, "Dad, who's winning now? Good guys or the bad guys?" And I probably asked him that 5 or 6 times during the movie because I was never sure, like, who's ahead, who's winning. Yeah. But that's the only memory I have from the very first Star Wars movie.
I crack up because during COVID, that was Fred's exact question when he started getting into these movies. So, decades later, 6-year-olds are still asking their dads those crucial questions.
Yeah. Always the good guys.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Marcus, thank you for your time. I actually am very intrigued to see episode 2 of this. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, and congratulations on the build. Good luck with the next one, and may the force be with you.
Okay, see you, Mr. Westfall. May the force be with you.
See ya.
Bye-bye.